Hey there, good morning. Welcome to Coffee with Connie. I'm Connie Fuksa with Foote Title Group, where we protect your home ownership. How are you this fabulous Wednesday morning? I wanted to touch base with you. I try to give you information about things that are helpful, informational, things that you may see, that you may experience with respect to your property. And it's not just all about real estate, but sometimes we talk about mortgages, sometimes we talk about title and closing, but all types of things that come up with respect to purchasing real estate, selling real estate, and what all those nuances are, because there's so many pieces to this puzzle. And one of the things that recently came up that was a question to me, which I love being able to answer questions, is, somebody came home from work one day and the Verizon big truck was there with machinery digging up someone's property. And they said, well, how could that possibly be? I thought I owned this piece of property and I thought my property went all the way to this property line. And it doesn't make sense to me how they could be digging up where I thought I owned that property. So, as I always do, I like to talk to you guys about questions that come up. I have a lot of topics that come up throughout the year that I like to talk about, but when something specific comes up, I want to talk about that specifically for you guys to help out. So in this particular instance, there is a thing that's called an easement or a right-of-way in real estate. So an easement is the ability for someone to travel onto your property. They have the right to travel on and off your property in a certain designated area to be able to perform maintenance to certain types of things. So easements are usually given to the utility companies, Verizon, Comcast, the water company, the electric company in your jurisdiction. And those easements are given to them to be able to travel on your property to take care of those lines without prior notifying you. Now, typically they will notify you, or they may at least come up and knock on the door and say, hey, we're getting ready to do this digging. I wanted to let you know. Now, you can't go out and run across the property and protect your property. They have the right to go out and travel on that piece of property to be able to work on those lines. Now, they can't do things outside of that scope, but an easement gives certain utilities the right to be able to do that. Not all properties have them. Not all properties have it for every utility that services that property. But if your property happens to be the one where the lines run through, maybe to service the neighborhood, maybe to service your house and your neighbor's house, then they have to get on there and repair those lines or upgrade those lines or fix things that come along, or maybe upgrade some things that need to be taken care of. So that is typically going to happen, and they do have the right to be able to get on that property and be able to do that. That is an easement, and you will find out about that when you go to closing, and probably a little bit before, depending on how the title company notifies you of those kind of things. When they do the search of the title, they can tell your property has some easements, and maybe things that you need to know about. Now, we've talked a little bit before about a survey, and this is also where a survey would come in, because a surveyor would note those items and where those easements are located on your property, so that way you have a little bit of knowledge and expectancy in case something comes up. There's also a thing called a right-of-way, and a right-of-way is similar to an easement, but it gives people the right to travel through your property for a specific purpose. So we can talk about that on another broadcast, but an easement specifically talking about, as I said, why Verizon can come on your property. The easements are granted in the ownership chain, which is called the title, and the title company should give you that information beforehand. So it may be Verizon, it may be the water company, maybe water lines run through your property, maybe electric lines run through the property. And usually they don't run right through your property. Usually they're along a property line. So typically it would only happen around a property line. But the other thing to know about an easement is you can't build a permanent structure over top of those easements. And this is another reason to have a survey, because you need to know where those are. Because if you build a permanent structure, they have the right to knock it down to get to those lines. They may not do that. It may not ever come up, but you want to make sure that you're within those boundaries, because they need to be able to get to those lines. So, as always, I hope I gave you some good, valuable information. If I gave you something that you found valuable, please hit that share button, because somebody you know might be going through this exact experience, and you be the one that helps them understand what it is. So if you please hit that share button, I would really appreciate it. Also, please go to our website, www.footetitlegroup.com. There's all kinds of resources on the buyer's page. If you're a buyer, go down to the resources tab and click on that link. There's all kinds of literature. There's all kinds of information to download. There's a buyer's guide, there's sample documents package, all kinds of resources you can use for your closing. There's also a resources page for the sellers tab and the realtors lenders tab, depending on which area you fall in. So utilize those resources because we're constantly updating that information. So as always, I hope I helped you with some information. Thank you so much for tuning in to Coffee with Connie. I'm Connie Fuksa with Foote Title Group, where we protect your home ownership. Hope you have a fantastic day, guys, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.